The future of the San Diego Padres is unknown when it comes to ownership and control. That's because the wife of the late owner, Peter Seidler, has now filed a lawsuit suing Seidler's brothers over control of the team. Here now to break down the lawsuit is trust and attorney Don Hall Cunneen, and we're talking about a trust that talks about all of who's going to be in control of the Padres. Good to see you, Don. Thanks for coming by.
Nice to see you.
So Peter Seidler's wife is now suing these two brothers, saying, I want to be in control of the Padres, and they're looking at the trust. Tell me what the judge is going to look at and what are the arguments.
Sure. The judge will always look at the terms of the trust. Who does the trust say should be in control? And in this case, it is my understanding that the trust specifies the brothers and that Mrs. Seidler even signed a document saying she would not be in control. But she is arguing, I believe, that the trustor's intent that the Padres should continue in the form they currently exist should control. And so she is challenging that.
So what exactly will she say? That the circumstances have changed and therefore I should be in control, even though I signed something that said I know I'm not in control?
I don't know what she will argue, but it's very typical for people in her position to argue exactly what you said. The circumstances have changed and the trustees are not carrying out the trustor's original intent. Therefore, we need to change the trustees, and dear judge, please do that for me because the trust terms don't allow it without a court order.
So it seems like the judge weighs what the actual trust says, then maybe what somebody says the intention is. Do they look at other circumstances, like how maybe intimately involved was she in the team prior to his death, or how intimately involved were the brothers in the team? Does that matter at all?
Those types of factors aren't weighed as heavily as the trustor's intent. So a probate court sits in both law and equity, meaning they must follow the law, but they can also consider extraneous factors, equitable factors, to make things fair and right. And what the judge really looks at is what did the person who owned this team, what did he want? And that will be weighed as part of the judge's decision.
What kinds of evidence do you think she might bring forward that would help her case?
I think it would be evidence in the form of testimony or documents that talk about how he wanted the team to continue, what happened at the meetings that he attended while he was still attending meetings, what was his intention with the team, and then to show how the current trustees are not carrying out that intention.
Is there anything we can learn from this situation as far as wills and trusts and families? Because you hear oftentimes that when somebody passes away, kind of that's when the relatives start fighting over what's left.
Absolutely. There are so many lessons here because they had things very well documented in this case. So often the case is people don't have their affairs in order, but his affairs were well documented. But at the time, everybody was getting along. Well, now people aren't getting along, and the person who held them all together is now deceased. So everybody does start to fight. And I think there's a big lesson for spouses coming in, maybe a second spouse or subsequent spouse. Sometimes they sign off on documents without really knowing what they mean because they just want to keep the peace or get along. And so I would say if you're coming into a situation that's an established family with a lot of wealth, have your own attorney as the spouse and make sure you really understand what you're signing. And then secondly, have some checks and balances. Maybe give someone else the power to remove a trustee.
Yeah, I've got to wrap it up. Let me ask you one other quick question. Is there kind of, does the law or do the judges lean in a certain way as far as like the spouse generally wins over family, brothers and sisters versus aunts and uncles, things like that? Because, one is somebody that the person has married and maybe they've been together a long time or not, and the other one is family, right? And sometimes they're estranged and sometimes they're very close.
Right. No, the judges really do try to stick to the documents, and spouses are given deference, but the documents really control, so your documents are critical.
All right, Don Hall Cunneen. Good to see you, Don. Thanks for all that.
Nice to see you.
Okay, Teresa.